Good morning, students. We meet again today for the module or your module known as Public Organizational Design and Development. So in these modules, as you would have um, watched the first video of the foundations of public administration, public management, and governance, you'll understand the importance of concepts and how concepts are very, very key in understanding a field or a module. Now, before we start, I would like us to look at the term concepts. Concepts are very, very important for anyone to understand before attempting to study any module. So why do you need to begin with concept? Because it's that in most cases, we are dealing with misconceptions. Misconception means that people get the concept wrong and try to make something right. And that is too late because if your concepts are wrong, then you'll have wrong conclusions. If your concepts are wrong or misunderstood, you will have wrong conclusions all the time. That's how it works, either at work or either here at school. So I want us to first look at the term concept. So when you're dealing with this concept, the word con by itself means to bring something together, and the word sept means to think. It deals with ideas. Con is to bring something together, and the word sept is an old English word referring to think or thinking. So what concept really, really means is that you're bringing together the thinking, the thoughts, the ideas, um, everything that has to deal with that particular field. So in this time around, we are bringing together every thought and every thinking that has to deal with organizational design and development. Very, very important to understand because as we move along, you get to see this. Now, uh, the module, as it says there, it says public organizational design and development. So that tells you that public organizations automatically underwent or still need to undergo these organizational designs and development. And why is this important is because something somewhere probably went wrong with how public organizations were designed and developed. And for me to bring you into the mood for this session, I would like us to first start with um, a very, very famous German sociologist known as Max Weber. For those that have read before about him, Max Weber was a very, very uh, famous scholar in terms of his way of organizing or his methods or his concepts of organizational design. So the issues of Max Weber started in the late 1800s. Like I said, it's very important for us to understand the foundation of why something is actually started or studied. So the importance for this is that before we deal with Max Weber or before I talk about him, let's look at the learning outcomes here. So what I want after this unit is that by the end of this unit, you should be able to define basic concepts that are relevant to organizational design and development and have a clear and a broader understanding of the dimensions and determinants of organizational design. So you're going to have this. Some of them are clearly discussed further in your module study guide, but we won't go into reading this because what I do in my session is that I want to bring to you why something is there or why is it that we have to study something. So what is organizational design? But before we get to that, as I was saying, I want us to talk about Max Weber so that we can understand his philosophy of organizational design and development. So in the late 1800s, Max Weber, a German sociologist, disliked the management of organizations on a personal, family-like basis. So this guy realized that the way organizations were designed and developed back then were something that he thought was not proper. So in his field, being sociology, he thought that employees were loyal to individual supervisors rather than to the organization itself. So this guy believed that organizations should be managed impersonally and that a formal organizational structure where specific rules were to be followed was very, very important. Now, Max Weber also thought that something that was part of a person's job and passed from individual to individual as one person left and another took over. Organization had to be managed on impersonal level, meaning that you did not have any personal feelings to your job. You had to be loyal to the organization, not to your supervisor, because that could be something that at the end of the day, the supervisor does not intend to achieve the objectives or the vision and the vision statement of that organization. So this non-personal objective form was viewed as the expression of rational and efficient administration. In other words, when he says that people should not bring um, their own personal feelings in the organization, he was trying to say that we are to ensure efficient administration. That's what Max Weber actually was trying to advocate for. So he came up with what we call bureaucratic organization was the most efficient way to control the work of large numbers of people. So Max Weber believed that all bureaucracies had to have the following characteristics. Now, before we get into that, bureaucracies is a very, very complicated term, but for the sake of understanding or organizational design and development, we'll say that it has to do with uh, organizations being designed and developed on impersonal level where everything is about the organizations, not about how the employees feel or how people feel or how your supervisors feel about you. It's all about the work that you're supposed to execute. It's all about how the organizations want things to be done. In other words, here they wanted what was best for the organization, not what was best for the employees. That's what Max Weber was all about. So he believed that a bureaucratic organization should have the following characteristics. Number one, his characteristics that is well known is that organizations must have a well-defined hierarchy. That's the first point that he made. So what he was saying here was that all position within a bureaucratic organizational structured government or structured institution um, should be structured in a way that permits the higher positions to supervise and control the lower positions. In other words, you have your top management controlling the lower management. So this clear chain of command facilitate control and order throughout organization. This is what Max Weber believed. In fact, most organizations, they still have this a well-defined hierarchy where bosses or your management or top management are the ones that bring or provide you with all that you need to know about the organization. They give you orders so that they have no room for you to bring up your ideas. So characteristic number two he said there should be division of labor and specialization. What he was trying to say here is that all responsibilities in an organization are specialized so that each employee has the necessary expertise to perform a particular task. So Max Weber believed that we shouldn't just hire people because we like them. We should hire them based on their specific skills or their expertise and experience and qualifications. In other words, during this time, things like the ANC or the EFF or the DA cadre deployment will not work because we're supposed to hire people based on their experience and quality, not because we like them or they're loyal to our political party. And then the third characteristics, he was saying that there should be rules and regulations in an organization. Remember, this is an organizational structure, most of which still exists today. So under rules and organization or and regulations, what he was saying is that there should be standard operating procedures to govern all organizational activities to provide certainty and facilitate coordination. So remember, if there are no rules and regulation within an organization, Max Weber believe that automatically there will be chaos in terms of coordination because everybody might do what they feel like. And then the next one is very, very important, according to Max Weber. He says there should be impersonal relationships between managers and employees. What he was trying to say here is that there shouldn't be things like a close relationship that now people become so close that their relationship is more important than the job. So that's what he was trying to say. So people should not have that kind of a relationship. It should be impersonal. It should be professional. In other words, we were saying there should be professional relationship between managers and employees. Now, he thought that managers should maintain an impersonal relationship with employees so that favoritism, because that's a problem, and personal prejudice do not influence decisions. And trust me, this is still a case where most people are still struggling to understand this. Again, he says there should be competence. Competence, not who you know, but should be on the basis for all decisions made in hiring, job assignment and promotions in order to foster ability and merit as the primary characteristics of a bureaucratic organization. And lastly, records. A bureaucracy needs to maintain complete files regarding all its activities. In other words, Max Weber guys here believe that all the characteristics that he just mentioned, they are so clear to a point that most organizations, even today, they still adopt this. But there's a tendency where competency is being sidelined or overlooked, where people are just employed because someone is having a close relationship with them. So he's also saying that promotions should be in order to foster ability, and it should be done on merit basis as the primary characteristics of a bureaucratic organizational structure. So it should not be about who you like. Now, those was that was just a little introduction of what kind of organizational design or structures we're dealing with today. And most of them, they're still on this Max Weber philosophy. So on the slides there, as you can see, it says, what is organizational design? Organizational design is the design and conceptualization of the organization or a structure. Like I said, this is the foundation on how an organization is designed. So it could be that your organization has adopted Max Weber's philosophy of organizational structure, which means is a top to bottom approach, meaning that the top management make all the strategic decisions and ship them to the middle management, and the middle management, they transfer such strategic decisions to the lower management. So it means that the top management in most cases do not want to know about any plan or thoughts or anyone from the lower level of the organizational structure to guide them. In other words, the top management is the one that makes all central decisions that seems fit for the organization. So again, it is a phase wherein systems are created for people to work together and ensure that the organizational objectives are realized. That's what organizational design is all about. It helps you to have a better allocation of tasks, job descriptions, inclusive of creating the objectives of the organization. So this, what it means is that the way you design your organization, it should be clear in a way that you know what you want currently versus how are you going to do it and how are you going or what kind of people you need to be able to achieve that which you have stipulated in your vision statement or your mission statement. This is why whenever a company is being established, first of all, we need to understand how the company is structured. Who's the CEO? Who's the owner? Who's the manager? Or who's the managing director? Or who's the HOD? All these people, they must be really clear. It must be clear in terms of who occupies which position. From there, you must know what is the vision statement of that organization, because at the end of the day, you need to know what is it that the organization see. So when you talk about vision statement, if I was to give an example, vision statement is more like seeing something in a far distance, um, but you're working towards it so that you can achieve that particular vision because that's what you want to achieve. Now I'm gonna move to the concept of associated with organizational design. There you have um, your concepts associated with organizational design. These concepts are further defined in your study guide. I'm not going to go through them. So I can just look at the first one, which is the study. I mean, organizational development is the study and implementation of practices, systems, and techniques that affect organizational change. Now, development comes in a way that there is something that needs to be corrected within an organization simply because it's causing system failures or practice failures. In other words, it might be because there is issues of inefficiency in terms of delivering services, or for the organization is no longer that productive. So there is some sort of development that needs to take place. And that is because, or let me just say, um, your organizational development must be guided by your organizational design, the way you structured your organization. It must inform you how you're supposed to develop your organization. Why is that? Because if you're going to develop your organization based on a wrong organizational design or structure, it's going to inform people and your customers that you no longer care about what the organization stands for. Because sometimes you might find that, okay, now you have achieved your goal of or your certain goal. Now you need to move forward. Maybe because you want to move forward because now the technological world is changing. Now you need to adapt to that. So you need ways to develop so that you can survive within that specific world that we are dealing with. From now on, if you're someone that is up to date with the current news, you'll understand that we are now in the digital era whereby everything is digital these days. So an organization that used to apply those old organizational design like the Max Weber organizational designs might be good, but also be out of touch with the digital era, because now you must have systems and softwares that you can use to work with people. You might need people to work from home, and this requires all kinds of softwares that might be used for people while they are away from work. So that thing that you need people all the time at work, in the office, just waiting, even if there's nothing to do, it might frustrate your employees. So you must find better ways to say that, okay, maybe the CEO is not around or is not in the country, but there's a software that he or she can use to work while she's away. So that's a very, very good approach, because the digital world now requires that we adapt into this era of living. Very, very important. Now, you must understand what is a government and what is a governance. So a government is more like structure, and then governance is more like how do you govern that structure using various approaches and the technology that exists. That's why I was mentioning the issue of technology, to say that technology is very, very important in terms of the way we live. So in government, we know that they're still behind in terms of digital development. They're still dealing with traditional and old manual paper-based systems, and that kind of system is actually causing a lot of corruption in our government or municipalities. So there is some articles that I've written about this, about government having to move from old traditional ways of doing things into a more digital way of doing things. And then I talk about a lot of things. For those that have an interest, uh, you can go through Google Scholar, you Google Terence, you see some of the articles that I've written to move from old government or maybe traditional way of doing things into the modern way. So I deal with e-governance, I deal with digital um, governance, and all these things, e-services, and all these things that you need to adapt. It is time, because all this challenge of trying to design organization from scratch or from developing organizations started long before, around 1970s and 1980s, where organizations had to adapt into, when the internet was introduced first. Private businesses were already ahead. That's why we were dealing with issues of e-businesses, e-commerce, and government seems to be catching up with these things very, very late. And by the time they try to invest, it is already too late, and people don't even know how to use systems. So for those that are working in government, I can tell you that there are some people that are still struggling with how to use the digital softwares and so forth. And it could make life easier, but sometimes they will tell you that issues of investments, issues of training is going to cost them a lot. So they opt to continue with the old manual paper systems or mechanisms, but still, such system still causes a lot of friction within the organizations or government organizations. They still have issues. So these are the concept that you must study throughout this module. That they're in your study guide. You must go through them. So why study organizational design and development? So good organizational structure design, it helps improve communication. Now, communication is the heartbeat of any organization. Why? Because if there is miscommunication, what you're going to find there is that you find people not doing what they're supposed to do. They'll be out of line, and you will have problems at the end of the day. But if the communication is well improved, clearly communicated clearly to the right people, it will increase productivity, because people will know automatically what to do, and people will be inspired to come up with all kinds of innovations to improve your organization. So it also create an environment where people can work efficiently. One of the most frustrating thing is a person being appointed in a position, and you are told nothing about what you're supposed to do or what is expected of you. And the only thing you hear is when the boss comes to you and begin to complain that why did you not do one, two, three? But you were never told or you were never given your job description in terms of what it was expected of you. And even if you are given a job description, before anything can be introduced, you need or managers need to sit down with such employees and tell them what is expected, teach them about how things are being or how things should be done in the organization. So yeah, organizational design is very, very important as we study this because it's going to help you understand organizational structure, organizational design, of which I won't go through because now we have a little bit of understanding. So for you to understand further, this is to study further all the slides that I'll be sharing. So what I do in this is that here it is the hierarchical organizational structure that I was talking about. This looks like exactly what Max Weber was talking about when he says there should be a well hierarchy, or let me just say a well-defined hierarchy. You can see it at the top there. You have your top management, you have your middle management, your lower management. Maybe there is just sub lower management. I'm not sure. But yeah, all these people have to be dependent on one voice that comes from the top. And then it is being communicated down or cascaded down to all these people that you see. You see how important this is. One person is leading at the top. If that one person is blind or that one person's organizational structure or leadership or management has cracks, it means the next group will be misled, of which they will mislead the other group and they will also confuse the lower people there. So that is why it's very important to have effective leadership and management styles there so that the next group can communicate exactly what the top management wants so that these guys next can do exactly what they are being told so that they can be efficient. You see how people are very, very important in an organization. If the leader has corrupted information or miscommunicate his plans and programs, imagine the level of destruction, the level of challenges these people are going to experience, the money they are going to waste, the time they are going to waste, and for the company to pay them on top of that, because they won't be the ones that will be at fault, but the leader. So the leader is the eye of the organization. He is the brain that needs to understand what should be done. So there are organizations that are from bottom to top or maybe horizontal organizational structure where people communicate, where ideas are being taken. It just depends on who or um, how is your organization being structured. So this is just an example of what you can look at. So more information you can get from reading the materials that will be suggested to you and the study guides, and also the additional notes that I'll be giving you. Now, these are the benefits of organizational design and development, of which I won't go through all of them because they are already there. Increase efficiency. Efficiency means that everything is done according to the program or according to the plans that the organization would have designed. And then it's like everything is done with ease. Resources are being used the way they're supposed to be used. It's more like a car that has no fault or no mechanical or mechanic issues. Like everything is just smooth. The car has no problem. It's been serviced well. The same thing happens with an organization when we talk about increased efficiency, that people are not complaining about this. They're very, very um, happy about how they are treated, how the employees are working, how friendly they are, how fast they are in terms of responding to issues or attending to serious issues that need effective responses. So again, the second benefit there talks about faster and more effective decision making. One of the most important thing is that when you have good organizational design and development, you as an organization, you won't just make decisions. You will know which decisions to avoid. And this is very, very important for those that are in leadership because 70% of the decisions that you make are guided on which decisions you're not supposed to make because they might be costly for the organization. So very, very important to understand which decision not to make. And then once you understand that, now you know which decisions to make. Very, very important. So I won't go through all of them, but there are outcomes of poor organizational design where there will be ineffective problem solving. If we don't know the problem or what causes the problem because the organization does not tell us or we're not well informed by the organizational structure as to what to look at, and then we'll be misled. Problems will come left, and that is why most organizations they will show you the sort um, analysis where you look at the strength of the organizations, the weakness of the organization, the opportunities, the threats, and so on, so that you understand that, okay, this is what is going to affect us, so that you don't waste time because wasted time regretting about things that the organization did not do even cost more time to be wasted. So you need people that do not lack coordination between different parts of the business because at the end of the day, you must come up with a strategy. So what I believe in this case is that in each and every problem, there is a solution whereby you must just understand first what actually is the root of the problem so that you can come up with better ways of solving it. So these are just the outcomes of organizational design. Now, we also have dimensions and determinants of organizational design, which I won't go through them, but they are here just as a short summary of this. You can read this in your module guideline, and then you must know that we have dimensions of organizational design, which are complexity, formalization, centralization, specialization, standardization. And then you also have determinants of organizational design, which are strategy, size, technology, and environment. These are what comprises dimensions and determinants of organizational design. Now, when you talk about complexity, the first dimension there, it has to do with the level or the degree of knowing the differentiation within an organization. Remember, one of the characteristics that I mentioned from Max Weber's bureaucratic organizational structure is to know the division of labor and their specialization. Why? Because people come with different skills and qualifications. So it is a complex organization by itself already. So you must be able to differentiate who knows what so that you can formalize their jobs or their job descriptions. That is why it has to deal, formalization has to deal with the degree to which a job is designed to be performed with set rules and behavior. Remember that there should be rules and regulations whereby there is imperfect, not imperfect, impersonal relationship between managers and employees. That's what Max Weber believed, but that is if the organization still uses that old traditional organizational structure. Now, why all these dimensions and determinants? Here is something to drive home. One thing that organizations today are suffering from is what we call traditionalized and institutionalized programs that they have adopted over the years, right? So after adopting all these traditionalized and institutionalized programs or plans, they forgot to come up with innovative ways to solve problems that organization faces. It's more like, okay, let me give you an example that I think is best. Think about using Nokia 3310 even to this day. It was a good phone, or it was a good phone when it was released back then. And then it was good for a certain period or for a certain number of years. Now, after that, new phones were being introduced. We moved from that kind of life or that kind of era, and then now we're dealing with smartphones and all this. Imagine someone who's using that Nokia 3310. I'm not saying it's not a phone. It's still a phone. It can make calls, I believe. But do you think you'll have all the information that people have now on their smartphones? Probably not. So it's the same thing with organizations that still adopt old traditional structures without looking at where they are. You need to understand the era that you are in. So that helps you to actually come up with new ways on how to improve and develop your organization. But for more information about this, we can have a discussion in the live class next week, where we'll be talking more and more about the module. So thank you so much for joining me. That's it for now. Enjoy your studies and watch over and over these recordings and understand what I was trying to say, and then we'll take it from there. This was just an introduction. Thank you.